Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up, guys? Listen, this has been a long time coming. Like, even to right now, to the last minute, I was just tweaking little things. I want to thank everybody who's watching. I want to thank everybody who's just taking the time out to either retweet, comment, do anything. This is something that I've had a real big passion about my whole life. I have a really big uh, presence in the music industry. Like I know a lot of people in the music industry. I've never really done this. I've always loved animation. Video games to me have always been moving art. And developers are artists. You know, they give us the opportunity to play as characters, as people, as as whatever in a game. Even some of us may not even have the ability to move around in real life. Some of us may not even be able to do half the things that we do in those games. But when we play them, we sure feel good. Um, basically, my next guest, I don't think you guys understand. Basically, during pandemic, things got really crazy for all of us. Pretty much. I had a really big loss in my family, a close family and friend. And what's crazy, I was taking care of the person's daughter, so it was weird to have lost her. And one like real meek, eerie night where I was just like really lonely and just crying to myself. I just was found myself chatting with Eric, and which is the next guest. And I was just like, man, like it's crazy how we're all going through this. He was playing Animal Crossing a lot. And I was just like, you got any games you want to recommend or anything that I can play to take me out of here? Just how we all felt at the time to just want to get away and, find some sort of happiness out of what was going on in the world at the time. So, at the time, he was just really supportive. I didn't expect someone to be so humble and so grounded. And I don't even think he realizes his status, in the gaming industry. But it was just really cool of him to just be so supportive. And me going through cancer and everything, it was just perfect timing. So in case you haven't figured it out, my next guest is Eric Monacelli. I had to, my homegirl, Perry, was like, her name is Spring. She was like, it's Monacelli. I know it is. He's Italian. So I was like, okay, I'll go with your judgment. And it ended up being correct. But this guy is, I'm not even gaslighting him, man. I'm not even gassing it. He's cool. Like you could just, I don't know, man. You could just talk to him about everything. It doesn't even have to be gaming. He's just a real mellow, chill guy. Um, he's doing this as a favor. I really appreciate it. He's not, it was last minute as well, but I really appreciate him coming through. So I'm gonna bring him in right now, guys. And there he goes.
Hey, how's it going, man?
What's up, E man? How's your
How's
day
it doing?
going?
Good, good. Sunny here, but it's been pretty chill. Been nice.
Yeah, you have. I will say this. You have. You're privy to like one of the most amazing views. I don't know how you get those shots, man. Like your picture.
Yeah,
Well, the crazy thing
yeah.
about it is photography was my major in high school. So like,
Oh, cool.
yeah. So looking
I
at
didn't know
you,
that. Yeah.
yeah, looking at you take those pics, I'm like, you sure you want to be a gamer? You look like you got some
Yeah.
David LaChapelle in you,
Oh,
but
nice, man.
yeah, but
Appreciate that.
so yeah, thank you so much for being my first guest, bro.
Of
This is
course.
something that I've been following your work for quite some time, but it was recently that I was really like, you're everywhere. Like your name is braided somewhere somehow into so many things.
Yeah.
One of the main things that I noticed, like you come a long way. Like you were a community strategist at Naughty Dog. Like
Yeah.
talk about like paying dues, bro. Like you definitely clawed your way to the top. Watching your growth is pretty cool. And one of the what do you think is like? I mean, I know if I look back at my old self, there would be something I would tell my older self. What is like the biggest collective lesson that you've gotten out of being in this industry for this long? Like, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on year 17 in gaming now. So I mean, I started out as a marketing coordinator. That's actually what I started at, and that was like that young person. I wish, I mean, everything aside, like the lesson about the industry itself is just like, and I think I proved it out by getting where I am right now. It's just like it takes a lot of grit, takes a lot of determination, and then just a lot of luck too. There's a lot of luck involved on like being able to get where you need to go. I talked to people looking to get into the industry for the first time or trying to shift careers to get into gaming or even making their next step in gaming, and a lot of the time the metaphor I always use is like it's like a castle, right? Like some people like the drawbridge is open, they just come running right through, they got all their crew with them, they just run through the
Right,
the main
right.
gates. But a lot of people, you crawl through the sewers, you figure out how to build a ladder to get up that castle wall, you talk to the right people to get into the castle, the hold of the castle. Like it's different for everybody and how they get into the industry. And I think that it takes that grit and determination to really get there. And I think I would have told my younger self to just stick with it, stay true to what you believe in, keep going. And then, the biggest thing too, I think, you know, uh, maybe go out less a few nights and save some of that money. That's probably another thing. Like when I was in my 20s, I definitely would, I wasn't that great at saving and go out, especially living in New York when I first started up. I was just kind of
I saw you
doing
went to
what.
Fordham University.
Yeah. I actually,
Yeah.
I finished. I graduated NYU, but like I went to Fordham for like I did a teaching fellowship through Fordham, so I was a teacher for a little while. So I taught.
Wow.
Yeah. Before I got in the gaming industry, I taught. So I taught at this school called the Center School. It was on the Upper West Side. I think it's still around. And it was a teaching fellowship through Fordham, so that's where I was.
What?
Yeah,
Wow, that's dope, man. That's really
yeah,
dope. That's really, really,
yeah.
really dope. I would have. I was looking through the stuff and I saw Fordham because I'm from Miami, but I went to BMCC,
Hmm.
and I was also up here like during 9/11. I went to school up here as well. So when
No,
I
cool.
saw that, I was like, "Oh, you're a New Yorker."
No, yeah, no. I'm native. I mean, like I was born in New York, and I went to college. I went to all three of the big colleges in the city, and I dropped out of Columbia. I was at NYU. I finished there, but like, I I always told people about Columbia. It's not Ivy, it's Moss. So that's kind of how I
Oh
feel
my
about it.
God.
Like that sort of thing. But like, that's my feelings on Columbia, or at least the program I was in, I should say. Like some of the programs are great. The one I was in was not for me.
Right,
And
right.
so, like that's kind of how it is. But yeah, I was fortunate, right? Like I definitely think maybe I would have told my younger self not to go to such expensive schools, sure, but like,
Right.
that those schools are pretty expensive. But like, I really did enjoy what I learned, and I grew up in a really small town, so like getting out of my comfort zone and in this big city with all these like super super smart people from all over the world and super super well traveled and educated. Like I had barely traveled when I entered in college, so like doing all that was really really awesome for me, and it's great. So I really respect that time I got to spend there and learn from just, because when you go to school in New York City, like your campus is not a campus, it's the
No.
city. It's the
Right.
city. That's where you do your learning. You're
That's
just
a
going
fact.
around.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
chaotic. So,
It's chaotic, but that's
right, right.
life, man. That's life. That's how you do, like, I feel like my best life skills were learned just from like going out some night, wandering around, getting lost. I'd end up in like, I don't know, East New York or something, and I'll be like, okay, I probably should not be in East New York. I'm gonna leave,
In
but,
Brooklyn,
but
right?
like, that sort of thing. But that's what it would be. That's what it would be like. So yeah,
No. Oh,
I loved it.
okay. Damn.
Yeah,
Eric been to East
yeah.
New York. That's
Hmm.
crazy. If you see East New York
No,
now,
no,
you're
I
gonna be
wasn't.
like,
I wasn't.
wow.
Yeah, I wasn't in East New York very long, but I did end
Oh,
up
okay,
there. Well,
yeah.
but
That's not where you want to be.
no.
Um, so another like really, 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 like this must have been something that when you saw it happen, I'm pretty sure that you just like now you were like, who would have thought that that would be this? But The Last of Us has been like beyond well received. I feel like,
Yeah.
everybody has haters, but I feel like
Sure.
overall The Last of Us is a concrete, like, solid franchise. Like, I feel like you guys
Oh yeah.
did amazing, and I had never played anything even remotely close to what that game delivered. And again, I'm born in '81. I've been around. Like
Yeah.
I popped open my Nemesis CD when Resident Evil 3 first came out, and I got terrified. But The Last of Us took things to a whole nother level. And I'm sure we can all agree that the depiction for the show was, it was super, like, well done. And how does it feel to watch something that you helped plant a tiny little seed? How do you
Yeah.
feel to watch something like that? And know that there are people who watch the show that are now buying the game to it. I know someone personally who, she's a mother, she's raising her son, and she was started watching it, and I told her, this is a game, right? She was like,
That's
no,
awesome.
like, and she
That's
went
awesome.
and started to watch the gameplay to try to predict what was
That's
gonna
really
happen
cool.
on the show. So how does, like, how
Yeah,
does
I
that
mean,
feel, bro?
that it feels amazing. I mean, like I when I got in the games industry, the thing I would talk to everybody about, and I think you set it up really nice in your intro. Like I've always viewed video games as artwork, right? Like they're works of art, and it takes a lot of craftsmanship, a lot of hard work to get them to be effective. And they are these things that at their best, when you're playing them, they hold up a like sort of mirror to you, and you can learn something about yourself. You can feel empathy, you can connect with characters, you can go on a great journey, you can connect with your friends maybe if you're playing a multiplayer game or something, right? And so like that feeling of connection and togetherness and just having that I don't know what the right word is. It's like no other immersion, right? Like it's this immersive connectedness, right? That people have, and no other medium provides that. Like nothing is like that. So, I feel like that is the amazing part about just knowing that when I started in the industry, I was like, I want video games to be known as more than just video games. And you knew this growing up too. Like video games were like evil, right? Like especially in the
Right.
80s. Like people were like, "Oh, you're playing a murder simulator, right?" Like it's like, no,
Duh,
I
duh.
was like, no, it's not a murder. I was like, I'm just a plumber that stomps on Goombas, right? Like I'm not murdering anything but like fake little things, right? And so it was one of those things where I grew up with this culture of like video games kind of being and that's actually why I got into teaching and other things in the first place is because like I was like I want to I want to do something in service of people. I want to help them. I want to help them realize things about their life, and I didn't realize video games could teach all that. And seeing how The Last of Us has started to affect people, I have so many stories about when I was working there about how it one of our fans wrote in a letter, and it was one of the most beautiful things we ever got. She talked about how playing Last of Us Left Behind allowed her to come out to her parents, right? Like she saw Riley and Ellie kissing, and it allowed her to give her the courage to tell her parents that she was gay. And, that's powerful, right? Like that's what you want from a video game. And, now knowing that it's just sort of expanded and there's all this expansion of that brand and that franchise into the television space. And I'd heard
Well,
about.
to be fair,
Mm.
not just the television, like they, not just a regular
Yeah,
television. Like that was, like it to me. It's as close to perfect as it could
yeah, it
get.
was a
Like it was.
cultural moment. It was a cultural moment for sure. And I think I love that, knowing that it had that effect on people. And like hearing your story just now about the mother, I think that's great. I'm really happy for all the folks that are still working on that franchise, and love it, and hope them the best continued success in the future with everything as they go into making it bigger and bigger, and broadening it out. And I think that's the power of great storytelling in video games. I mean, that game and that studio, Naughty Dog, is really good at doing episodic television as a video game, right? So
Yeah.
the game was
The game
almost
is a
felt
movie. Like
the
you
game
guys
is yeah the
did the
game
work for
yeah
them, to be
yeah
honest. Like,
there was a lot there, and I mean like the HBO family and everybody else, Craig Mazin made it so much better. I think one of the coolest things I noticed about it is like when you're in the game, the action of the game. So the game was launched in 2013, and so that first part of the game, up until the horrible thing that happens to Joel's daughter and stuff, that's 2013. That's when it happens. And then the main action of the game, everything you do as you're playing the game, takes place in 2033. So it's 20 years later, right? But in the TV show, what they did is the horrible stuff that happens with Joel's daughter takes place in 2003, and the main action of the events of the TV show take place this year in
yeah.
2023. So that connects you with this really, really salient thing that we're all thinking about, which was like, we just came out of COVID. Like, what if
Yes.
this is
Yes.
what if this is what happened? And so they changed they changed it by 10 years, and just doing that itself really made people connect with it in that way. And I think, television versus gaming, very different way of connecting with characters. In gaming, you are the characters, you're helping them survive, like you play as these characters, right? But in television, you're sort of passively watching it. But like, because of these sort of like this cultural fear we had about like pandemics and things like that, like I think that show came out at exactly the right time, hit right in the right cultural moment, and just kind of crushed. So.
And if I'm correct, I think around the time the show was out, the news was talking about a possibility of fungal like infection.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
It was
So
just perfect
yeah,
timing, dude. Like,
yeah, yeah.
I just think
It
that
really
that was
was.
like my mother's like, look at this on the news, and it was a Spanish news. They were talking about how due to global warming,
Yep.
we
The
might
temperature
be,
has it, yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So it was
I think it was almost like inversely, like the show influenced people to think about that, but at the same time,
exactly
it's the same thing. So, but like, yeah, it's crazy. So, right time, right cultural moment, right touchstone, like, and huge critical
right
commercial
game,
success. Right game,
right game.
right franchises. Yeah. So, yeah.
Um, I also see here you did you was communications director for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Infinity Ward.
Yep.
How was that? And as far as with the difference between a shooter and this type of game, and
Yeah.
how do you feel about the current state with that whole activity? Do you think gamers should play together? Or
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I like gamers playing. It's up to how you want to game. Like, I'm always into that. Like, I mean, we've played games since we were cavemen and cavewomen, right? Like with sticks and
yeah.
stones. So, like, you want to game how you want to game how you're gonna game, right? It's up to you. And so, that's my stance on it. But like, working at Infinity Ward, it was really cool to see how Call of Duty worked and sort of just the whole machine. And they really do have a really well-oiled machine, and how all the games roll out. I will say it's really rewarding to hear now, 6 years after that game shipped, that people are now acknowledging how good the single player was. Because when it shipped, everybody was like, "I want boots on the
Right.
ground. I want boots on the ground." And it's like, no, no, just play the game first before you complain
that
about it.
and that helps people
Yeah,
like well like
yeah,
me. I'm not a Call of Duty sweat. So like when I
sure,
played the story mode, not
yep,
everybody wants to load up and get a sniper bullet and not play the
yeah,
game. So
yeah.
it was I appreciated it.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I think we did a really good job telling a very meaningful story in that sort of Call of Duty mindset and framework, in that mentality, and I'm glad people are appreciating it now. It's really cool to see.
Right. Um and again, the evolution is crazy. Senior director at Marvel, like the name alone, it's like, and again, I loved. Side note, I loved Ultimate Alliance 3. Like, I loved it.
Awesome, awesome,
um,
great to hear.
how much of a leap in creativity were you able to take? Wow, once you were given that stance in that position, how free were you to do something that you wanted? Were you
Yeah, I
able
mean,
to pursue like a passionate project that you really wanted to make happen, or are you
well,
limited?
I joined a games team, right? And the games team had a clear vision and strategy that was outlined by, what our head of our games team, Jay Ong, did, and like I saw his strategy, I saw his vision, and I was like, this is awesome. Like I want to work on games like this. I came to Marvel to help them build really, really cool gaming franchises, and that's kind of what we've been doing with Marvel Spider-Man and things like that. And so I support we have amazing creative collaborators, amazing developers. We are the IP holder, and we just work with them in really interesting ways and get to interact and see how they want to take the Marvel IP and sort of shape it in their own original take and stories. And that's what I love doing. Like I have this saying that I stole from a guy that was a designer, and he designed a lot of like trains and things like that, but and logos. And he uses this term called Maya, and Maya means a bunch of different things. But how I use it is I use it as make advanced yet accessible. So it might be something that's familiar to people, but you want to advance it a little bit, but it needs to be familiar enough to be accessible. So you're doing kind of both. And I think that's the sort of mindset, whenever we're approaching any problems or working through any creative challenges, that's what we do. I strive for that, and work with my team and all the teams we work with to do that. So making it advanced and yet accessible is really the key to, I think, what drives me and gets me out of bed every morning, making like, oh, we're going to do something cool that people are going to relate to. They're going to connect with it, but it's going to be just a little different, have a little bit of flavor to it, and be something they enjoy for different reasons than they normally would.
That sums it up perfectly. And it honestly it shows in your work. It really, really does. Everything that you've done or that you've been a part of that I've had the pleasure of playing, I get that. Which, by the way, I wish you guys made Iron Man VR for the VR too, because I wish I could play it with the new one. That game was really
Yeah,
good, by the way. I
cool,
liked
cool,
it.
cool. Well, Meta
Um.
Quest has it now, so if you get a Meta Quest, you can play it there. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Um. Spider-Man 2. I'm
Mhm.
not gonna. I'm not even gonna. I'm not even gonna
Well,
try to pry anything out of
did you
you.
see the video?
No, you. I mean, you saw the retweet.
Yeah.
You saw what I tweeted, and I know you saw my reaction, but I didn't think, I'm not. Just don't take this as an insult. I didn't think you guys could get any better. Like, don't get me
That's
wrong.
not an
Graphics.
insult.
No,
That's not an
listen.
insult. That's beautiful.
Graphics, top tier. I never doubted any of that. I like I said, this is art. The just the that sequence in that short amount of time. Like,
Yeah.
all right, he goes underwater. What? Croc is down there? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think
Yeah.
that it's this. It was. I felt like I was watching. I don't know, John Wick, Jason Bourne, like, or like one of those
Awesome.
movies that are like very
Yeah.
fast paced.
Yeah.
You, I didn't think that would get any better. You guys, shout out to you, Gavin, everybody over there that's doing work on it. I'm not gonna pry too much, and I'll save my prying for when there is a Marvel game with Rogue in it, because I'm definitely going to try to find out
Sure.
the most that I can. Um, there is a lot of hype around Spider-Man. You guys just revealed that there won't be any co-op, which I personally, again, it goes back to what you were talking about and the type of way that gaming was when you know, um, the type of gaming that we can, relate to as far as immersing yourself in a story. And now you're allowing us to. It looked like we could switch to to Peter and go back to Miles and do
Yeah.
that whole thing. And again, you were behind Last of Us. We were able to do that in Last of Us. Like, you're bringing that element over to Spider Man.
Well,
I
let me be clear that it's the Insomniac Games team that's developing it. They are doing all the magic. I help them, and I aid them, and
No,
the
definitely,
PlayStation.
definitely. No, I
Yeah,
know, I know,
that's
I
true.
know. I mean,
Sure.
I know, I see you
Yeah,
guys though. I know
yeah.
everybody's one big family.
We're one big family, and we work really closely together. But man, I like personally myself, like when I saw that footage for the first time, I was like, man, yeah, they outdid themselves. They keep upping the bar, raising it again and again and again, and that's the secret. I mean, like, I feel like everybody in the games industry I've worked with, I've been really fortunate to work on some great projects, and they all have this drive, and they have this drive to just tell better
You
stories
sure know
and
how to
move
pick them
more.
though, E.
Yeah, I've
You-
been lucky, man. Part of it's luck, part of it's just like knowing, like, hey, I like this person. I know that they're gonna work hard, they're gonna put in the time, they got the determination to do it. That's who I want to work with, right? And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, if you figure out those sort of people, and don't get me wrong, I've worked on some stinkers too, man. Like, I've worked on some games that have been like, I worked on one game that got a 1 out of 10, and I had to because it was
You?
just, yeah. I've worked on
What game
some.
is that? I never heard of it.
Ready to Rumble Revolution 2. I was at Atari for a little bit. So,
What year was that?
oh
How far
man,
back?
2009, I think it was, or something like
Oh
that. So,
wow.
so yeah, I mean, like, I've been in the industry for 17 years. I haven't worked on all perfect, and I love that. I think that's part of the best part is, like, even the bad games teach you something. The games that you know are probably going to fail, but, like, what can you do to sort of, like, make them shine a little bit, or find, like, a very small audience for them. Like, I still think to this day, one of my favorite games I worked on was this game called Okami Den, and it's a very small game. It's a sequel to Okami. But it was only for the Nintendo DS, and the community was lovely. The fans are lovely. It's a beautiful game, really well done game. Like 80s, 90s Metacritic, I think it's got. But it's like, it's one of those games that you knew just wasn't going to have a big audience, but it was still awesome to work on it and just learn all the lessons from it. So things like that keep you going. I mean, these big games are awesome. I love working on them, but at the same time, I think having those other games that just connect really deeply with a passionate group of people is awesome too.
Yeah, and it shows. It really does. It comes out in the work.
Yeah,
As far as Spider Man, I just want you to let them know, like, there is
yeah,
somebody out here that wants to play as Black Cat. Like, you don't let that model go to waste. She
sure.
looks amazing. Okay,
Yeah,
so
for
tell
sure.
them, like, there's people out here that love Black Cat.
Oh, the Black Cat
Um,
DLC. Yeah, I hope so. There's Black Cat DLC. I mean, if
you guys have had
you
her in
play
there,
that.
man,
Oh
and
yeah,
you're
she's great.
teasing us like
Yeah.
she's gorgeous. And on the remaster, you did a great job.
Oh, the remaster
You
did a
got
great job of that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Um, Now, I think it's time we discuss, like, one of your hidden talents. I talked about it earlier. You're really into scenery, man, and I'm talking like amazing scenery. You spend your time relaxing, and it looks like you really cherish aside from your working, you really cherish, like, your peace.
I do.
Your
I do. I
your
try to.
pictures take me. Like, I'll
Good.
look at it and I'll be like, oh, it looks hot as hell, but I'm like, wow, but it looks like, so, like, you could just hear just
Serene.
the
Yeah.
wind blowing, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
when did that, because I see you number your pictures. Like,
Yeah, I started, so it's really kind of petty how it all started, but, like, I will say that there's this Mountain Conservation Recreational Authority, which is a group of, they run, like, certain parks in California. I'm out here in California, and they have this parking pass you can get. It's like an annual pass, and it costs like $450, right? And so that's a little pricey for an annual pass because it only gets you into 12 parks. And I was like, man, that's expensive for only 12 parks. And
yeah, it is.
yeah, it really is. And so then it costs like $12 to park at the one park that's, like, closest to where I live. And I was like, all right, let me do the math real quick and see how many times I would have to go in a year to pay off the pass. So I would have to go 38.5 times because it's $450. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go more than that. So they're kind of paying me to park there now, right? And
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
so it came from all that. It was literally just like, oh, because if you buy a state park pass for, like, all the parks that are throughout the state of California, it's like $200, and it's like 100 some parks. And so I was like, this is a real kind of rip off because it's in, like, a wealthier neighborhood, this park and that sort of thing. And so I was like, they're just trying to get people, right? And
Right.
so I wanted to make sure that I got my money's worth. And so I also just got really into like during COVID, man, like as you said, it was tough. It was really tough. Like I wasn't moving as much. I just, we were all trapped inside for especially during the early days of COVID. And, I needed to start moving again and just get out there and stuff like that. So I just started hiking and doing these hikes, and I realized I love that park. So then I bought the parking pass, and that led to this sort of like desire to do it. So I was like, all right, did the math real quick. Last year I went 48 times alone to that park. And this year I was like, all right, can I get 50 times in half a year? And so I just hit 52 this weekend. And I was actually spending time between New York and LA. And so I had only been in LA for like 3.5 months or almost 4 months this year. And I just crushed it. I'm very proud of myself, I will say, because I went hiking a lot, and I enjoy it. But it's one of those things that like I feel like if you're in a bad mood, go for a walk. If you're still in a bad mood, go for another walk. Right? Like just do it. Like it'll
Right,
clear your
right,
head. Like there's no reason to like get up and get angry about something. Like don't yell, don't fight, just go for a walk. And by the time you
right.
get back from it, you generally are cleared. And so I love to do it just to sort of like ease my mind if there's anything troubling me, or if it's just like, hey, it's a bright sunny day and I want a good bit of exercise. I do that. I started hiking with like a weighted vest to get like more more impact from it, and it's been great. I love it.
That's what's up. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just had to because like I said, my, photography. I went to art and design. There's a
Hmm.
high school by Bloomingdale's.
Okay.
I went
Yeah, yeah.
there, yeah, and when my major was photography, I went there, and I'm infatuated with really nice images, and your
Nice,
pictures are
man.
amazing.
Thank you.
Your second passion, which everybody that follows Eric has to know this man loves Major League Baseball.
I do.
Okay,
Very
like
much.
he loves baseball, but
Yeah.
it's crazy because I'm Cuban, and in like the
Mhm.
Latin countries, like the Latin countries, they love baseball.
Yeah.
Cute. A childhood friend of mine is the grandson of a baseball player called El Mundo Amoros, which he was basically what they did was the the black Cuban baseball players were put to play with the American ones, even though they didn't talk the same language. They just
Mm-hmm.
all played, and
Cool.
he played with Jackie Robinson and like all the Negro
Amazing.
leagues and everything.
Yeah.
So
Did he play on the New York Black Cubans? Is that the team he played for?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
find
Yeah.
out the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played
Yeah.
with them back then years ago,
Yep.
and I just really see that when it comes to you when it comes to Major League Baseball, and you and Gavin have like this hilarious anybody that's born in the 80s, like you guys have to watch their gifts back and forth. It's
Shit.
literally like Ultimate
Yeah.
Warrior, and then it's Macho
Yeah.
Man, and then it's Hulk Hogan. I One day I woke up like really late, and I saw a thread of you guys going back and forth, and I
Yeah.
was crying. Like
Yeah.
I was like, yo, and it takes
It's how we
someone
show
to have.
love to. It's how we show love to each other. That's what we
Yeah, and
do.
then I saw the Ultimate Warrior. I was like, wow, these people communicate with WWF gifts. But
Yes.
you show a lot of like a lot of love to the black baseball players. Like you really love like to tweet
Yeah.
stuff about history about it. Have you always like your whole life? You always was into baseball and wrestling. That was your niche of
Yeah.
grip.
I mean, I grew up watching wrestling, WWE. Like, I'm an '80s kid too, and like WWE was just on every Saturday in my household, and we watched it. And Jimmy the Superfly Snuka, and Ultimate Warrior, and Bushwhackers, and Ted DiBiase, and even Hulk. I didn't love Hulk Hogan, but like Hulk Hogan and those other guys were all over
Right.
it. So
Oh, you
like,
didn't like him? You were a Macho Man fan?
I like Macho Man better, but I like Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior was my favorite. Like Ultimate
Right.
Warrior was absolutely my favorite. And then like when it got a little later, like Undertaker and those guys I started to get into. But like yeah, Hogan for some reason like I just didn't like him. I don't know why.
Did
Even
you
when
see
he
No
was
Holds
here.
Bars? You saw the
No,
movie?
I haven't seen that. No, no, no. Oh, is
He
it
was a
worth
bad
it?
act. He was a bad
Okay.
actor.
Okay. He's a
It
bad
was him and
actor.
Zeus. I don't The guy from that just passed away from Friday, Debo.
Oh yeah,
Remember he
Debo.
was,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, Zeus. He
Mhm.
was wrestling at the time, so they had a movie, and they were fighting over Elizabeth. I don't know if you remember that whole Macho Man thing
Yes,
where,
I remember the Elizabeth thing.
so yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
but
no. I
yeah, I
mean, I
just thought
grew
that.
up. I just loved that stuff growing up, right? And so I watched
What?
that. But like baseball's been in my blood forever. Like I grew up, you know, in a very small country town, and like I played baseball. I would go in my backyard, and my brother and I would just like hit baseballs to each other until like the sun went down, right? And so
Oh
I,
wow.
I just played a lot of baseball. My father's family played some minor league baseball. They like played on some minor league teams and a little bit of you had some interactions with like back in the 50s and 60s, especially in 70s even, a lot of ball players would like go on like tours and they go on like these barnstorming things they call them, and so they travel around to different cities. They play a game like an exhibition game just so people could see the players. You know, like there wasn't social media, right? This is how you
Right,
got
right.
the sport out there. And so a lot of the time these players would stay with my dad and my grandpa, my great grandpa, and my grandpa, and they would stay at their house. So like I got a picture of my dad's uncle standing there with like Hank Aaron, because Hank Aaron just came over, was like coming through town, got a meal with them. And so like it was just all over. It was just part of my heritage.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
embedded
just
in your.
it's embedded in me, and that's just something I love. And you know, like I really all these untold stories about, you know, my buddy over at Sony San Diego, Ramon Russell, and his whole crew there, and Colin and Jason and all the guys there. They did an amazing job with um, the Negro League storylines this year. And so like I love having those stories out there. Like it is I think it should be required, like they should bring them into classrooms and people should play those storylines, because like it's required learning for people, like this hidden history about like American culture. Because like without the integration that the Negro Leagues sort of were the forerunner, you know, like they came before we integrated everything. Without the integration that like, you know, Hank Thompson and Jackie Robinson and all those, and Buck O'Neill and all these players that played in the Negro Leagues helped make done, like civil rights movement wouldn't be what it is. So like
That's
I
a
think
fact.
that it's very, very important and powerful stuff that people should learn about. Like baseball was such a part of the fabric of American history that like it spurned a lot of the civil rights movement. And you know, the Jackie Robinson Museum down in on Varick Street. I've been there like pretty much every time I go to New York. I just visit. It's just
Oh
one of those.
wow.
I go there. I'm a member there. I love it. Like it's. I gotta shout out to that. It is like one of the greatest museums, and it's just a monument to a fantastic, you know, pioneer in the sport, but not only the sport, but like the history and culture of America. And I love that.
That is
So
definitely true.
yeah.
Wow, like that was beautifully said. Um, yeah. So wow, that was good. That was good. The way you explained that was
Dude,
just really.
I will talk about baseball all day, man. Like it is
No, but that
literally
was
like
well.
yeah.
It was well explained to someone that would probably be like, "Why do I even need to know that this happened?" It's important to see the groundwork that was there
It's all
before.
connected, man. It's all
Yeah,
connected.
before
So,
everything. I wanted to ask you, like, when working on these games, do you go in as a fan, or do you go in as an employee? Are you a hybrid of both?
that is a great
Also,
question. Hmm.
yeah, and do you guys? A lot of people want to. I mean, I've always wanted to know this because I remember for Marvel Ultimate Alliance, was it Ultimate Alliance 3? It was one. It was some Marvel game. No, it was Ultimate Alliance 2. I remember there were devs. There was a dev that really, I don't know if it was you, but there was a dev that really wanted Psylocke in, and they got her in. So my question is, do you go in as a fan or as an employee, and how much of an influence does a dev have to a certain character getting in if it's their favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question, and it's a question I always talk to people about too, because like if you go into any of these jobs, like you go, I'm going to just use some example companies. So like, say you go to Blizzard and you love Overwatch or you love Diablo, right? And you're like, oh man, I only like when I play Diablo, I only play as the thief, and I want the thief to be the best character. Like you're gonna make some crappy decisions. If you like have the bias, if you have the bias of like, oh, we're gonna make the thief the most OP character, and that's gonna be the best. Like that's not gonna work for anybody, right? So
Right.
you have to balance your enthusiasm and your fandom with the level of that. You know, like yeah, Psylocke is one of my favorite um, Marvel characters. Will I try in any game that I'm leading or working on? Will I try and force Psylocke into the story? No, hell no. You know, like I won't do it because it's one of those things where it's like, does it fit? Does this have the right meaning? Does the right context? Does the character make sense? Does the creator that's developing the game want to work with that character, right? You can't force something, right? Like otherwise it ends up being inauthentic and it just doesn't come across well. So it is balancing sort of the, you know, that business head with the fandom. But yeah, if there's a moment it's like, oh, cool, this would be a cool Easter egg. We could pop a little Easter egg in there. Sure. You know, like you suggest those things, see if those work. Not all of them work, but you know, you try and do that. So, you know, Psylocke, I love Kate Bishop. I love Wolverine. I love a lot of mutants. I grew up with the X-Men, kind of probably being my favorite group. But you know, it's one of the Black Panther I've been a huge fan of for years. And just Iron Man, I was a massive Iron Man fan until Tony Stark kind of turned into a dickhead in the comic books.
Oh.
He turned into a real
My friend
yeah
Brock is in the comments. He loves Iron Man, but he
yeah
recognizes that he's like
yeah he kind of got really like he kind of got
he's
really
like a
mean.
god, or then got
Yeah,
demoted,
the
and now he has
ego
a new
the
addiction or something. I don't know
Yeah,
what's going on with
the ego got the best of him in
him.
comics. So yeah, I stopped loving him after reading a lot of the comics, but I still enjoy it. I mean, like I love Marvel. Period. That's why I'm working where I work. But you know, that is the balancing act of like, hey, you can be a fan, but there's a difference between enthusiasm for something and then obsession, right? And you gotta make sure that you don't let that fanatic out. You don't let that obsessive fanatic out. You got to be
Hmm.
enthusiastic about it, support your case, but you got to also you got to think like a sports fan. You know, like when you're and I bring a little sports into a lot of how I think, but like you know, like you can admit if there was a close call at first base and the runner is out, you can admit when the runner's out, even if it's your team. You're like, okay, that guy's out, right? You need to know when to pull something out. So you need to be thoughtful in that way.
That's a pretty fair way to see
Yeah.
it. Because I just always thought like, all right, if somebody likes a character, you know, if you're by the dead team's office, you're like, oh, you
Yeah.
whisper something in their ear. Like I always pictured in my head,
No.
it could be like that. All right.
No,
Um,
the dev team comes to you first, and then you assess it, and then you talk through them, and you know typically the dev team knows what they want to do, and you just sort of let them lead, and you help them out where you can. But you know it's all creative collaboration. That's what we do. So yeah.
the next question is you know it might shake the table, but um it's subjective. You know, this is a fair question. Who is the villain, Joel or Abby?
Oh, Joey. uh, okay, I gotta be real with you. I didn't get to the Abby playing part. So I've only played 12 hour or about 10, 12 hours. I hated the part where you had to kill the dogs. I have a huge soft spot for dogs, and I was
Yeah, I
like,
know.
hey, I hate this. I hate this. So I couldn't get through it. I motored my way through it. I got around it. I hated that they forced you to kill one dog. It was like that sucked. And so I uh, don't know too much. You know, I've watched the videos. I've learned through it, but like I was so close to that game. Like it was also really hard to play that game because we were in the middle of the pandemic, and I was just like, I don't want to be in this world right now, right? So, you know, like it's a little depressing. So, you know, I think that if you take a step back and look at all of it, it's like everybody's fighting for their own survival. Joel has done a lot of horrible things, and he essentially got what was coming for him, right? And that's the reality to it. I don't think in any way, shape, or form would I condone killing anyone or anything in like a real world context, but like if you look at the storyline, it's just they're trying to talk about like how going for revenge just creates chains of violence, right? It's like the whole history of violence thing, and that's the main message that that game tries to get across. Very brutal, very very brutal. I mean, it's like you know
So you
what
would
I've
say that
read.
both of them are equal, or
Yeah, I mean, they're. I think
do you
everybody in
think
that
that
world.
Joel? I mean, Joel killed, or I guess, or her father, so she would have a reason to come back and kill him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a history of violence thing. It's just like everybody in that world has a reason. Imagine if you're in the mob, or if you're in
Yeah,
a Russian prison or
you're
something. I'm
Italian
sure.
for
Yeah, I'm
real.
Italian. I am Italian. Yeah. So I mean, like that's the thing. Like I don't have any family members in the mob, but like I've heard stories from people and
Mhm.
connected, and it's just one of those things where that there's these cycles of it that just generationally get carried over, and especially in this really bleak world where everybody's fighting for survival, this is the way, and it's kind of sad, but it's the brutal truth of that world. So it's hard to say. Like I think I want to hear Abby's story. I want to see here. I should go play the rest of it. Maybe someday when I'm ready to, I will. But I definitely thought that they did a pretty good job with that. So yeah.
Maybe make a mode where you don't have to kill the dogs; you can just put them to sleep.
I know that's what I want, man. Like, tell me about it.
I
Like
know how
that.
you.
If I did have control over one thing, I would be like, just don't hurt dogs ever. That's
Right.
what I would be
Just
like.
or
No,
shoot them
no.
with
Yeah,
tranquilizers and put them to
tranquilizer
sleep.
darts. Yeah, just put
Right.
them to sleep. There you go.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
This year is really big. This is the 60 X-Men 60. They're
yeah,
turning 60 this year, and yeah, I'm pretty sure you're tired of me asking you to keep them in mind. Do you how do you do because me like you came up on the mutants as well. How do
yep.
you do I know that they will emerge again as far as MCU and as far as popularity, but how do you feel um as far as wanting them up in the forefront again? Because I mean, I'm sure you played
Yeah.
X-Men Legends, or a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
these games are more Avengers centered. Like the X-Men are lately they've been, and
Yep.
then we'll see two or three characters here in the game, but we really haven't seen the X-Men get their own like
Yeah.
thing. Is that something that you guys are looking forward to in the future? Now, this is not an official announcement for a game or anything.
Yeah, no,
Just
no,
like, is
no.
it
I mean,
something that you?
the stuff that's been publicly announced already with the X-Men 97 cartoon coming, and then our Marvel's Wolverine game coming, and a lot of cool I mean, I love the Jonathan Hickman run that he did where, um, Dawn of X, the Swords
So
of
you like
X, and like,
Krakoa and all of that?
oh, I love Krakoa. Yeah, I
Oh
love all of
wow.
that stuff. Yeah, I was a super like how they're reborn, like the five and like everything, like this whole reset button he hit on the whole world. I think
This
is
is
really really
perfect
dope.
because you're leading me
Yeah.
into the next question. Okay,
Okay. All right.
Judgment Day just passed, and we saw that
Yep.
arc. Avengers, X-Men, or Eternals. Like
Uh,
if there was a
if
dome, like a
yeah,
giant dome, and everybody's sealed in there, and all three of these
yeah.
teams have to go out to the death. Like, who do
Uh,
you, without any bias, who do you think is?
I mean, I really hate to say it, but the Eternals are gods. So
Mhm.
it's just like the Eternals would probably wipe the floor because they're just get. I mean, the X-Men can get reborn now too. So the Avengers are going away because they don't get reborn. There's no way to
Right.
reborn.
So
Like
the Avengers are out of
so
here.
the Avengers are out of there. Like as soon as they get like X-Men can be reborn. So it'd probably be a showdown between the Eternals and the X-Men. And personally, I would want the X-Men to win just because that's my crew. But like I don't know. That's a tough one because the Eternals are super,
They've
super
killed gods,
powerful.
though. To be fair,
It's true.
right?
They have. Yeah. And so do the Avengers. And the
And
Avengers do
vice
have some
versa.
god.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some have some gods. I mean, like Thor. That'd be a knockdown, drag out brawl. I mean, like X-Men wins because I want
Not
him
not
to.
not to brag, but Rogue beat all the Avengers on her debut, and Thor
There you
was a
go.
god. So
Yeah, there it is.
it can happen.
Let's just go with
Uh,
your story then. Rogue's
yeah,
gonna win it all. Yeah.
yeah. She'll
Yeah.
just touch everybody, and the fight is
There you
over.
go. It's done.
So my next question is, what's I have yet to play Hades. My backlog is crazy.
Mhm.
But your gaming library is like people wouldn't be able to judge you for what you play, like because you play the
Yeah,
most
I play everything.
kiddiest thing, and then you'll
Yep.
play the most intricate thing. Then
Yep.
you'll play an RPG, and then you'll be
Yep.
on Breath of the Wild. What is your favorite gaming genre? Like overall, like if you were on an island and they told you, look, it's either first person, third person, RPG, strategy. This is what you're stuck with for the rest of your life. Which one would
I
it
mean,
have to be?
if there's only one game, it's Tetris. Like Tetris is my favorite game of all time. Like because I
My
feel like
uncle
it's
is
just
like that.
yeah, it's one of those games that like it just helps you breathe mentally. Like there's so many different iterations of it. I think it's just a really well clean, simple, thoughtful design. Tetris would be my favorite game of all time. And then after that, I love the Zelda franchise. Like I'm a huge Zelda nerd, so like I think it'd probably be Breath of the Wild was one of my favorites. And if you're gonna get lost in a world like that, I feel like I've played a little bit of Tears of the Kingdom. I love it, but every single time I turn it on, I'm just like, this is another 6 hours of my life. I need to be ready for. So
Right.
I can't quite commit as much as I used to these days, but I do think that those like action adventure because Tetris is a puzzle game, but I wouldn't say puzzle is my favorite because there's a lot of puzzle games I don't enjoy. So I
My
would say
uncle is
action.
in his 70s, and he would
Mhm.
be like he does. You know how Cubans have a lot. They're communists, so they have a lot to do with Russia and stuff. So he
Sure.
studied in Russia when he was young. So
Oh,
the
cool.
whole aesthetic of the Russian temples. I remember when that game first came out. He still feels that's the best game of all time. He will
Yeah.
play that game, and he says it's even the din 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 dun dun dun
Yep.
dun. He feels like all
Yeah.
of that is
Yeah.
therapeutic. Like
It
he turns into
is. It
Mozart. He
is.
loves it.
There's actually like articles written about like how it helps you mentally organize and process your thoughts and can help with PTSD, right? Like there's been
Wow.
scientific studies on Tetris and a lot of it too. And this is a rumor. I don't know if it's actually true, but I've heard it like because when I was playing it, I played it on like my computer, like a desktop, and when you got to a certain level, you would start to build a rocket. And if you got high enough, the rocket would blast off into space. And so a lot of it was meant to show like the level of like skill, grit, determination you need to get to work together and be comrades and help launch the space program. And like it's all tied to that in some weird way. Some of the aesthetic around Tetris is that. And like, yeah, the music's classic. It made it into a classic thing. The design is so utterly simple, but just perfect. And it just helps. I mean, like we play Tetris with whenever we stock our kitchens, whenever we pack our trunk for a road trip or just to go to the store or whatever. I mean, like it's just a one of those games. I mean, there's a psychological effect called the Tetris effect where you start to see things, your video games in your real world, and that's a real thing. And
Wow.
that's real. And so I think Tetris has just had this really great psychological, cultural, creative impact on the world. And the story behind how the game came to the U.S., which was very dramatized in the Apple movie, but is really fun to watch, and that's pretty wild too. And it's one of those games that just I say this all the time, but like the best games I've ever played always have some kind of drama and like tension behind them, and Tetris has probably got one of the most dramatic stories to it. So,
Oh my God.
that's really what
Wow.
it is. Yeah,
I'm glad it helped you though. I mean, I know
yeah,
that wasn't the first, it's not the first time that I've heard it about that game as far as it being like therapeutic.
yeah.
Um this next question is I with all the cuz this is I guess this is what's happening now. They're bringing back a lot of games. They're remaking a lot of games. Metal Gear Solid is coming back. If there was one title that's
Mhm.
dated, like I'm talking about maybe blocky where people look like you know
Yeah,
if
yeah.
there is one title that you can pull like through a time loop and like remake and revamp from the ground up now, what
Mhm.
game would that be? Any
Man.
game.
Wow. Okay, so two popped right into mind. So one of them I grew up playing with my brother a lot called Car Warriors. So it was like a top down, you were like two, it was like Rambo essentially. You were a pink guy and a blue guy, and you all had the bandana. It was very Rambo-esque, and you
That
like
sounds
walk
familiar.
Yeah, it was a co-op game, and you could jump
Very
in tanks. You could
Contra-esque,
do,
right?
yeah, yeah. It was Contra like, but it was top down, and so you would walk along and you'd shoot things. You'd be in a tank or a helicopter. Like, I'd love to see a modern version of Car Warriors. That would be cool. And then there was, oh, actually, three. There's so many games, but UN Squadron, which was an old Capcom game where you were a fight. I loved that game.
That
It
really
was
sounds
like
familiar. I think I played that.
a side scrolling fighting game with like these huge boss battles. I loved that game. I would love to see that remade. I think it was based on an anime at the time. I can't remember exactly what, but it's a really, really cool game. And then the other one is more, a little bit more modern, and it's really not that dated. But I just would love to see like the revised version of it with Psychonauts, because I love the first Psychonauts game. It was super funny.
Isn't that the little people with like the astronaut thing?
Yeah, the
I
little
think I
like
seen that.
mind reader. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that would be really cool to see that redone, and I think that would be fun. But I love all that stuff. So there's so many games. I could come up with like 10 more of them, but those are the three
No,
that
I'm
pop in my
sure. I'm
head.
sure. Yeah, but you know, how there's usually just one where you're like, I wonder what that would look like now with
Yeah,
what we have.
a
You know,
yeah, a Car Warriors, man. That would be it for me. Yeah, because there's
and
not many great co-op games anymore, and that was a great co-op game. So
true,
I'd love to
true.
see it.
And then even
Yeah.
if we do get a co-op game, if people feel the need to go three, four people, like I like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
okay to do
yeah.
two. It
Just
doesn't have
two and
to.
see where it goes. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Um, I see that you have a really big thing with. You also love Frank Ocean music. Spring is in the chat. My homegirl, Perry, she loves Frank Ocean. What's with his music? I just wanted to know what intrigued you to his style. What's your favorite Frank album, and
Oof.
do you listen
Oh
to him while
man,
working?
I don't listen to him while work. I don't listen to much music while working because I'm pretty like focused on stuff. But I will listen to classical music occasionally if it doesn't have lyrics.
Oh, me
I'm
too.
okay. Yeah, it's gotta have something without lyrics, because like I will pay attention to lyrics sometimes, depending on the mood I'm in. So like if it's got lyrics, I sometimes get distracted. But and it's funny because there's a Frank Ocean quote that says, if you're happy, you listen to the, it's, I'm paraphrasing it, but if you're happy, you listen to the melody. If you're sad, you listen to the lyrics. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of mean, but it is kind of true in some ways. My favorite album of all time is definitely Channel Orange. Blonde is great. Blonde is great. Classic album, but Channel Orange, like Forrest Gump, Pyramids, like all that stuff is just next level. I could listen to that album on loop. Super Rich Kids, like such a good
He's
album.
such a like. Do you like the fact that he's such a rock star? He doesn't care. He's just
Yeah,
like
I
living
know. That's what
life.
I love
Like,
about what I love most about him as a personality is he's like, I'm gonna put something that I feel is true to me and is authentic to me, and if y'all don't like it, then fine. I'm just gonna
right.
live my life, right? And I feel like that he's like that. I will say this is a weird thing I've noticed. Like since I've been happier, is I've gone through some personal stuff. I got like a new girlfriend and everything, and since I've been happier, I don't listen to him as much as I used to.
Oh,
It's weird because like I feel like you listen to Frank Ocean when you're like going through processing through some emotions, and like I haven't listened, and he hasn't put out an album in 6 years, so like that's part of it too. But like I listen to a lot more Sam Cooke right now. Sam Cooke and Frank Ocean are my two favorite artists of all time for music.
oh wow.
And so, but I think Frank is just like, if he has like one or two more albums, he's probably definitely the
Did
best
Sam
of all.
Cooke do a change? A change gonna come?
Yeah, yeah, he did a Change
Yeah.
Gonna Come.
Okay.
Yep, 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 yep. And that's
Okay.
what he's most known for. But like he did so many great
Yeah.
classic
Yeah.
songs over the time. And then I listened to a lot of that. I grew up with like classical and punk rock. Those were the two I liked the most. That was a weird contrast, but like Ramones, and then I would listen to like Beethoven, right? And so it would be like those two.
What?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
So
Kind of like your gaming variety.
no,
Like you
yeah,
go
my
here.
taste, yeah, my tastes are all over. It was just, I tried to be a musician before I got into any career. Like I had a band, we toured and stuff, but like, um, I ended up, I took a lot of music classes, and well, not a lot. I took some music classes when I was a high schooler, and took some vocal lessons when I was a senior in college, just to try to see if I had a voice. But I've just always been into. I think music is just one of those languages that is like its own special spiritual plane, right? Like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a very, very intimate, connective human language, and I just love all. If you got a good song, it doesn't matter what genre you are, you just got a good song, and I love that about it.
Yeah. Well, you were in New York, and hip hop is turning 50 this year.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite hip hop artist? As a New
Um,
Yorker,
as a New
like,
Yorker, my favorite hip hop. I mean, like for overall just like lyrical prowess, it's got to be Jay Z. But I love J Cole. J Cole for some reason. I mean, like I just like for some reason he every single track he puts out, like the Adonis interlude he did for Creed was dope. The new one he did with Little Dirk, I can't remember the name of it, is All My Life, I think it is. Yeah, All My Life is so good. I J Cole, I've loved him since the Forest Hills days and those albums.
yeah, he's
But
on modern day Nas. I would say he's like
yeah,
our
yeah, exactly. And that's the funny thing, because like I should love Nas because I know how much he loves the Mets. I love the Mets, and that's it. And I do love some Nas songs, but like J Cole connects to me better for some reason. So that's just like what I've always
he's
like.
a lot
He's
more
always
relatable.
yeah, and he's always like up in my, and he's just like his rhyming and his entendres and the way he drops lyrics is just insane. Like that guy is smart as hell, and so I love that about him. And I like the fact that he tried to play basketball. That was crazy. Like,
Oh
did
wow,
you
I
see
didn't
here?
even know that.
Dude, another, yeah, yeah, yeah. He tried to get like he did like some D League or NBA D League, like theater league. He was in it for a little while. Yeah, I love people that just like go for it, and he was just trying to
Right,
do that. So yeah,
as you
yeah,
should, as
yeah.
you should. How did you manage to get your dog in Miles Morales, or how did you manage to get the dog's face in there? Like,
Yeah, man.
that's what
That
I
was
mean
the
by like devs can definitely be like, you know what, this will look cool.
okay. So the story goes, I we were talking about that game, and like we want to make sure that when we show representation and have different holidays that we are fair, like everything. So if you're gonna have Christmas, you also have Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and every other holiday, right? And so if we wanted to do something, like a lot of religious and holiday symbols are very religious, right? And it gets to be a little weird because you don't want to do too much of any one religion or anything. And so I was like, I was talking with the producers and some people that are working at PlayStation and Insom about it. And I was like, you guys could just do stuff that's non-secular, like my dog in a Christmas sweater, right? And it was meant to be a joke, right? But like it was an example of
He
something
looked
that
too
could
cute.
work. Yeah,
He
it was
looked
like
too cute.
Griffey's adorable, man. And so I sent that image as like a joke, and then August 7th, I'll never forget this. August 7th, 2020, I got an email from Derek, who's one of the project managers at Insomniac, and he's like, "We put your dog in the game," and I was like, "Oh my god, thank you!" And it was just like, they made graffiti of his little cute little face with his little tongue out, and he's in the game, and it is just the best tribute I could ever ask for from anybody. And it was mainly because they just needed some more like art for the game world, and it was an easy one to do quickly, so they did that. And so an artist named Trey did it, and Derek and Joe and a couple other folks got it in the game, and super grateful for them. It's like one of the coolest, most awesome memorial, and it was really fun because like people who find it and know that my dog's in the game will send me screenshots of it, and so I have a whole
I
folder of
did it
like,
as soon as I saw
yeah,
him. I was like, "What is
exactly,
he
yeah,
doing
yeah,
here?"
you
Then
did,
you sent me
yeah.
a picture of him looking at me,
Yeah.
looking at you, showing you the
Yes.
picture. I'm like, "Hey, buddy."
Yeah, yeah,
That was
yeah,
cool. That was really cool. But like, as
yeah,
far as dogs, I see a pattern. Like, man, you have a soft spot when it comes to like when it comes to Cosmo, Lucky the pizza dog.
yep.
You love dogs. Like,
I do,
is
I do.
it because do you have a connection because of something that happened, or you just always have liked dogs? You've
I
always
just
had a
always like
dog.
dogs. I just always had some dog in me, I guess. I don't know. That's what it is. I just love dogs, man. Like it's I grew up with so many. Like I grew up in the country. We had golden retrievers and black labs and Rottweilers and pit bulls and Doberman pinschers and big German shepherds and like all these big dogs. And then I got this little Yorkie dog, and I was like, whoa, what do I do with this? Football. And then I started to love little dogs, and so now I love big dogs. I like little dogs. I love animals because I just like I like taking care of them. I like having them around. So it's tough because they're not here for a long time. They're here for a good time, and they pass quickly, which is the sad part about them. But like I definitely love having that sort of those creatures in my life. It's part of who I am.
What's weird, as far as the dog, the thing is, I had dogs, but I've never felt the connection that a lot of people I know, like I know people who consider the dog like a family member, like
Family,
part
yeah,
of the family,
yeah.
and I just remember I've always felt like there was a really unspoken connection between dogs and animals because I will never forget when I moved to New York and I got diagnosed with like the cancer. I had a real bad case of lymphedema in my left leg, and it
Mm-hmm.
was cancerous, lymphatic fluid in my leg.
Hmm.
And my friend's dog would not stop licking my leg. And it
No,
was like this, like
I know.
it's almost like they can feel. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't want to get
they
into
sense it.
that, but
Yeah,
I
they
feel like
sense
they
it.
can feel when
Yeah,
you're going through something. So the dog
yeah,
was just always on me, and the dog barely even knew me, but she
yeah.
was just like, I don't know why he's like on you, but he was like, and I wasn't doing too good with my health. I feel like dogs, yeah, I feel like dogs can pretty much sense
Yep.
what's going on. So that makes sense. I just was curious because I was like, all the everybody's going crazy over the MCU and the characters, and you're the one that's like, look at the dog,
Yeah, look at the
look
dog.
at
I
the
know.
dog. Yo, Cosmo
I
killed
love
it.
that. Cosmo did
Guardians
kill it.
3.
Yeah, I loved it. I
Like,
loved it.
is
Good
wait,
dog.
is Cosmo a
Cosmo's a good
girl?
dog. Cosmo's a girl in the MCU. In the comics, it's the boy, and so I was a little weirded out by that, but I was like, oh, that's an interesting
I
choice
just
to
wanted to
kind of
make
do that.
sure. Like,
Yeah,
so in
yeah,
the comics,
yeah.
it's a boy, and in the movie, it's a
Yep.
girl. Okay,
Yep.
just wanted to
Exactly.
make
Yep.
sure.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
And so I think they did a really good. I mean, like, yeah, I think dogs are just that special element, and they're just like there was something I read a while ago that the dogs are a paradigm of a victim. So it's just like you got to care for them. Like they can't tell you anything. You have to have empathy for them, and I think animals teach empathy in really important ways, and I think they teach kindness, and I think empathy and kindness are just important, and so that's what it comes down to.
yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Um, so one night I was on Twitter and I was like, what is Eric doing up? And you were commenting on Ted Lasso.
Yes.
So I was motivated to go on Apple TV because I mean it's as soon as you go on Apple TV, it's literally for months. It's always the number one show. Like I see it as the number one. So I said, let me give Ted Lasso a try, and I am now hooked. Um, I didn't think I would. Again, I didn't think I would. In my country, in Cuba, they're really big on soccer. They call
Hmm.
it football, so they're really big on soccer. And so I never cared for soccer. My uncle, the one that likes Tetris, he played soccer. I never cared for it. Watching that show and seeing how just uh, a character like that can get you into something that you're not normally into. When like what you started watching Ted Lasso out of the blue and liked it, or it did it you
Yeah.
just
I mean, I like Jason Sudeikis as an actor, and then I just started getting into it, and then I just started loving Brent Goldstein and Roy Kent, and then like all the other actors. But yeah, it was just one of those shows that like I love sports in general, and I love like stories about like athletes and athletic trials and tribulations and athletic excellence. Like The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary, is like one of my favorite things ever, probably. Just that sort of stuff. I love the stories about sports and that sort of thing. And so I just started watching it, and I just Bill Lawrence, who's the showrunner in Ted Lasso, he did another show called Shrinking, which is really good on Apple TV
that's out
too. I
now,
think.
right? It's that's like the
Yeah,
psych the guy, the counselor. I saw
yeah,
it like it's like
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah. It's Jason. I can't remember the guy's name. Siegel, Jason Siegel, and Harrison Ford's in it, and a couple other people. And it's a great show too. And like all these shows are just like really about like they use and Ted Lasso especially uses sport as like just sort of like a metaphor for like what you go through day to day, a human condition, that sort of thing, and that's what I love about it. And it's another one of those shows that teaches believing and believe and kindness and empathy for people. And I love those kind of stories. I like stories that are uplifting and just aren't like some gritty, dirty, like, oh, the world's gonna end sort of
Right, right,
narrative, right?
right.
Right. So like that's the kind of stuff I gravitate towards. Yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting with Ted is he's optimistic, but he goes through a lot. Like,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
deals with it with a smile and everything like that, but he goes through a lot.
Yeah. He
So I
stays
found that
positive,
interesting.
stays up. Yeah. Love it.
Um, right before we wrap up, I just wanted to talk about this real quick. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hmm.
That that game. Again, I don't know how things work up there or in office. That I feel that game was severely slept on. That game was very good. Like
Yes.
I
Same.
like to be completely honest, it did what it was sent to do. Like I feel like that game was so fun. The story was from left field. It didn't have nothing to do with the MCU, but I loved it. Like everything was
Yep.
just the characters, the way that you play as one character, but you can control other characters. How do you feel now that the movie is out? You can literally go into the tweets to the game and see the people saying this game is so good. Like you
Mhm.
need to go back and play it if you haven't. Like now that the movie is out, people have a higher appreciation for the game. And no offense to the guy who plays Adam Warlock. I love the game version a lot
Mhm.
better. Like
Yeah.
that was I really liked it. How do you like again, it's like Last of Us. How do you feel? Not like it's different because you didn't create it, but it's like how do you feel watching that and then watching this and watching people go back to people go back to that to kind of like relive the movie experience through the game.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think the team at IDOS, they did an amazing job telling a beautiful story. That was their own Guardian, their own unique take, very full of heart. The creative director, JF, was like, put his fingerprint all over it from like, the guitars they had in game to the sneakers that Star-Lord wore that like JF used to wear Adidas like that as a kid, right? Like, so it's like one of
Wow.
those things where it's just like, there's a lot of personal love, and Steve and the whole audio team did an amazing job, and I think they did a really good job of like creating this really rich world with great visuals and everything like that people, I think people slept on it for a variety of reasons, and I think that it just during the time in the pandemic, especially, it came out 2020, right, in October, right, and it was just
Right.
like a very, very difficult time for everything, right? And I think that it got all the love though. It got a lot. It's one of our most.
Yeah.
It's probably our most awarded game ever on the Marvel Games side in terms of like the number of
And
awards.
the
I don't know.
accessibility, like you guys,
Yes,
like you
they crushed
guys
it. They did a
make
great job.
it. I mean, you're doing it in almost. At least I noticed in a lot of you push this a lot in a lot of your titles that you work on, and I think that you guys like knocked it out the park. Anybody can play this game.
Yep.
You're
Yep.
catering to all kind of audiences. Now PlayStation has the new, accessibility controller with all
Mhm.
these things that you guys are doing to implement that I feel like that's again, whoever is watching right now that has not gotten that game, please, if you're getting
Yes.
on if you
Pick it
see
up.
it on sale, it's a steal because
Yep.
it's a very very good game from beginning to end, and the replayability is also there. I love it. I
Sure.
need to go back and play it.
Awesome.
So now before we go, are how excited are you for Wolverine?
Very excited. I'm very excited.
Very,
That's all I can say.
very excited. Okay,
I'm very
very
excited.
excited, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Very
I see.
excited.
I follow. I think her name is Mary or whatever. The one who
Yeah.
she's writing for it or
She's writing
whatever.
on it. Yeah, my
She
my
was
buddy Mary and my buddy Walter writing on it. Yeah. Yep.
she was laughing one night because I woke
And a
up.
ton of other people too. But yeah.
I
Yeah.
woke up really late and I saw that she was like brainstorming about Wolverine, but nobody was like in her mentions. And I sent her like a whole bunch of comic book art. Look, Rogue went with Wolverine on this mission in Match Report. You can get inspired. I had her on the floor. She was crying. Um, But yeah, let me go ahead and just I just before you go, I just wanted to conclude this and basically I want to thank you, Eric. This is again, I've gone through stage 4 cancer twice. I actually have surgery coming up again July 10th. It
Mm.
sometimes in life you get like you can have a path and then there'll be like just rubble and then you
Yeah.
have to deal with moving the rubble before you can move forward, and you're one of the
Mm.
people that not only you took a risk with doing this, but thank you. You know, you've been not just a friend, you're just like you're a positive, it's just a positive force at all.
That's
Every
fine.
time that I hit you up, you're just a good influence, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Will.
So I'm looking forward to, maybe having you as a guest a year from now to see both our
Sure.
growth and see how we
Absolutely.
doing. I have one last question, and
Okay.
it's from left field, but was Doctor Strange wrong for not telling Tony he was not coming back to be
I
with
thought
his daughter? He
I
did
thought
like
about
this. And
he
he
did
knew
what?
that he said to them he had to come back. He needs to come back. He did
Right.
not tell him, was he wrong for not telling him that he was not going to make it back for his daughter who he just had?
Yeah, I mean, well, Thanos was right, right? So
Oh
no,
wow.
no. I found that hilarious. Like it's funny if you really think about it and take a step back, like all the permutations that could have happened. But yeah, I think, Doctor Strange has always been a character that's got a lot of ego, right? And I think that that's sort of what he um sort of leaned into, and I don't think he was the kind of doctor that had a horrible bedside manner and would be not tell you the truth. So, I think that um I can't say right or wrong. I think that, like I think Tony Stark has a lot of ego too, and if he had the choice, he would probably have saved the world versus or saved the multiverse instead of, gone back to see his daughter, right? Like I think he already knew in his head, and you could actually make the argument that Tony already knew. That's why he made that message for his daughter and everything. So
True,
maybe
true.
maybe Doctor Strange did. I don't know. Who knows?
Right, right.
But
Or we can just blame Peter Quill for coming out of
yeah,
character and
let's just
punching,
let's just yeah, let's blame Pretty Cool. He gets
Peter's
blamed for
fault.
everything. But yeah,
But
no,
thank you.
that's a great question. Yeah, thank you,
Thank you
William. This
so
has been
much.
awesome.
Nah, you are. I wish you the best, and man,
I wish
anything
you the
like
best too. Good luck with July and the
I'm
appointment and
gonna.
everything, dude.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I beat cancer up a couple times.
Yeah,
It's not,
you
you
can
know.
beat it back. Beat it back. Yeah.
I'm gonna continue to support you. Your work is phenomenal. And it shows. Like it shows in your product and what you put out and what you and the teams you put together and whoever you pick, they do an amazing job. Thank you, and please, please, please keep the X-Men in mind. Please, 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 please. Like if there's ever anybody at a table that goes,
Mm.
what type of game does anyone suggest that we should do? Like have the X-Men there. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
been a long time since we got X-Men Legends,
It's
so
true. It's true, man. It's true.
just show the mutants some love. But thanks for coming,
Yeah,
and I appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you
appreciate it
on the
too.
flat top. I'll catch you.
Talk to you later. Thanks. Be well.
Peace. Thank you guys for having the time to come and check us out. As y'all can see, he's one of the like I don't think y'all understand. I was in such a dark place during pandemic, and a lot of stuff was just happening. And Eric is just somebody that'll just randomly like hey, how's your day going, man? Oh, try this game out. Tomorrow get better. You know what I mean? Paying it forward. He's just a good overall person, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate him being my first guest. Thank you guys for tuning into the show. This means like this is the dawn of a new era for me. I didn't think that I would even be able to do this right now, and it's not that hard. I'll be following up. I definitely I have a lot of guests lined up. This is gonna be good. This is gonna be fun. Thank you to everybody that stopped by in the chat. Brock, Spring, Doom, Pewter, who Boxley, uh, Deeper, you know, everybody that came by, Nava Flow, Obliminal, and the list goes on. Just everybody that came through. Thank you so much. Y'all already know I'm all about reciprocity. Thanks for the love, and I'll catch y'all on the fly tip next time on BS with BabeBro. Peace.